Christmas is all about happiness, family, and presents, right? It's the time of year when we gather around with our loved ones, exchange gifts, and create memories that last a lifetime. The air is filled with the scent of pine, the sound of carols, and the warmth of togetherness. Kids eagerly unwrap their presents, their faces lighting up with joy. Families come together to share meals, laughter, and stories. It's a season of joy, love, and light. But have you ever stopped to think that Christmas has another side to it? A side that's not so bright and cheerful, but it's also got a spooky side. Yes, you heard that right. Amidst all the joy and celebration, there's a touch of eeriness that creeps in. The dimly lit decorations, the long, dark nights, and the fog that often accompanies winter can create an atmosphere that's perfect for a good scare. It's almost as if the festive lights and decorations cast shadows that bring out the spooky elements of the season. It might seem weird, but Christmas and scary stories have gone together for a long time. In fact, telling ghost stories during Christmas was a popular tradition in the Victorian era. Families would gather around the fireplace, not just to share festive tales, but also to recount eerie stories that sent shivers down their spines. Old-fashioned Christmas cards often featured spooky elements, blending the joy of the season with a hint of the macabre. Historical reenactments of Victorian Christmas gatherings often include these ghostly tales, reminding us of a time when the line between festive cheer and eerie chills was much thinner. Think about it. Twinkling lights and warm fires also make great shadows for spooky stories. The flickering flames of a fireplace can cast eerie shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere that's perfect for a ghost story. The lights on a Christmas tree can create patterns that seem to dance and move, almost as if they're alive. Even a warmly lit room can have dark corners where the imagination can run wild. It's these contrasts that make Christmas a surprisingly fitting time for a good scare. We like a good scare, even at Christmas. There's something thrilling about mixing the warmth and joy of the season with a touch of fear. Whether it's watching a horror movie with Christmas decorations in the background, reading a scary book by the Christmas tree, or telling ghost stories by the fireplace, we find ways to incorporate a bit of spookiness into our holiday traditions. It's almost as if the contrast between the festive cheer and the eerie chills makes the experience even more enjoyable. It's like we enjoy seeing what's hidden in the dark, especially when everything else is so bright and cheerful. The bright lights and decorations of Christmas can make the shadows seem even darker and more mysterious. A dark room with Christmas lights illuminating a scary figure, a cozy living room with a subtle, eerie figure in the background, or a brightly decorated Christmas street with a shadowy alley can all add an element of suspense and intrigue to the season. It's this interplay between light and dark that makes Christmas a time for both joy and a little bit of fear. Christmas is all about light winning over darkness, so maybe that makes us think about the darkness even more. The bright lights and decorations symbolize hope, joy, and the triumph of light over darkness, but in doing so, they also remind us of the darkness that exists. It's this contrast that makes the season so magical and intriguing. The bright Christmas lights contrasting with dark, shadowy areas, the candle-lit scenes with dark corners, and the Christmas tree with bright lights, and a darkened room beyond, all serve to highlight this duality. When we're all cozy and happy with our families, maybe there's a little part of us that wants to think about the creepy stuff too. It's almost as if the comfort and warmth of the season make us more open to exploring the eerie and mysterious, sitting by a dimly lit fireplace with a spooky atmosphere, being in a cozy living room with a hint of something eerie in the background, or even seeing a smiling family with a dark, mysterious figure in the background can add an element of intrigue and excitement to our holiday celebrations. So this Christmas, embrace both the cheer and the chills, and enjoy the unique blend of joy and spookiness that makes the season truly special. Being a bit scared at Christmas isn't new. In fact, it's a tradition that goes back centuries, long before the modern Christmas we know today. The idea of mixing a bit of fear with the festive cheer has deep roots in European history. Way before Christmas, people in Europe were both scared and hopeful during the winter solstice. This was a time when the days were shortest and the nights were longest, a period filled with uncertainty and anticipation. The winter solstice marked the turning point of the year, when the sun would gradually return, bringing longer days and the promise of spring. The winter solstice is the longest night of the year when the sun isn't around much. This extended darkness was both a physical and metaphorical challenge for ancient communities. They had to endure the cold and the dark, which often felt like a battle against the unknown forces of nature. People worried about what happened in the dark. The long nights were filled with mystery and fear, as the darkness seemed to hide all sorts of dangers. It was a time when the boundary between the living and the supernatural felt thin, and people believed that spirits and otherworldly beings roamed the earth. They told stories about ghosts, monsters, and scary places. These tales were a way to make sense of the fears that came with the long, dark nights. Gathering around a fire, families and friends would share these stories, finding comfort in each other's company while acknowledging the eerie atmosphere outside. These stories showed how people felt about the dark and unknown. They were a reflection of the collective anxieties of the time, and telling them was a way to confront and manage those fears. The act of storytelling itself became a ritual, a way to bring light to the darkness and to find a sense of control over the uncontrollable. These old stories helped make winter a time for spooky tales. The tradition of telling ghost stories during the winter months continued through the centuries, evolving with each generation. By the 19th century, this practice had become an integral part of the winter festivities, blending seamlessly with the emerging Christmas traditions. Years later, the Victorians loved ghost stories, especially at Christmas. The Victorian era was a time of great fascination with the supernatural. Ghost stories became a popular form of entertainment, and Christmas, with its long, dark nights, provided the perfect backdrop for these eerie tales. Charles Dickens wrote, which is a classic Christmas ghost story. His novella, A Christmas Carol, published in 1843, is perhaps the most famous example. It tells the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, a miserly old man who is visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. Through these spectral encounters, Scrooge learns the true meaning of Christmas. Even though the Victorians seemed proper, they liked thinking about scary stuff. The contrast between their outward respectability and their fascination with the macabre is striking. Ghost stories allowed them to explore themes of morality, mortality, and the afterlife in a way that was both thrilling and socially acceptable. They found it interesting to explore these dark ideas in stories, especially during the holidays. The tradition of telling ghost stories at Christmas has endured, reminding us that the festive season is not just about joy and light, but also about acknowledging the shadows and the mysteries that come with the longest nights of the year. Even early movies got in on the spooky Christmas action. Movies like and added ghosts and creepy stuff to Christmas stories. These movies used old legends and spooky stories to show that Christmas could be both happy and scary. They weren't exactly Christmas horror movies, but they definitely made Christmas a little creepy. The shadows, spooky lighting, and sad stories made Christmas movies more interesting and paved the way for scarier Christmas films. In the 1970s and 80s, scary Christmas movies became really popular. These films took the traditional holiday season, known for its joy and warmth, and turned it on its head. They introduced a new genre that combined the festive spirit with elements of horror, creating a unique and thrilling experience for audiences. This was a time when people were looking for something different, something that broke away from the usual holiday cheer. The idea of mixing Christmas with horror was both shocking and intriguing, drawing in viewers who were curious to see how these two contrasting themes could be blended together. One of the most iconic films from this era is Black Christmas, which is about sorority girls being terrorized during the holidays, and it's a classic. This film set the stage for many others to follow, establishing a blueprint for Christmas horror that many filmmakers would emulate. The success of Black Christmas showed that there was a market for these kinds of stories, and it paved the way for more films to explore the darker side of the holiday season. The film's chilling atmosphere and suspenseful plot captivated audiences, making it a staple in the horror genre. These movies were much more violent and disturbing than older ones. They pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in cinema at the time, introducing graphic scenes and intense psychological horror. This was a stark contrast to the more light-hearted and family-friendly Christmas movies that people were used to. The violence and disturbing imagery in these films were designed to shock and unsettle viewers, creating a sense of unease that lingered long after the movie was over. This new approach to Christmas movies was not without controversy, as many people were uncomfortable with the idea of mixing such graphic content with the holiday season. One film in particular caused a lot of trouble because it had a killer Santa Claus. Silent Night, Deadly Night was released in 1984 and immediately sparked outrage. The idea of Santa Claus, a beloved and iconic figure, being portrayed as a murderer was too much for many people to handle. Protests were held and the film was even pulled from some theaters due to the backlash. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, the film gained a cult following and is now considered a classic in the Christmas horror genre. People argued about whether it was okay to mix Christmas with such violence. The debate was intense, with some people feeling that these films were a perversion of the holiday spirit, while others saw them as a fun and creative twist on traditional Christmas stories. This controversy only added to the allure of Christmas horror movies, as people were drawn to the taboo nature of the genre. The discussions and debates surrounding these films highlighted the cultural impact they were having as they challenged people's perceptions of what Christmas could be. These movies showed that people really liked scary Christmas stories, even if they were a bit much. The success of these films demonstrated that there was a significant audience for Christmas horror, and filmmakers continued to explore this genre in new and innovative ways. The combination of holiday cheer and horror created a unique viewing experience that resonated with many people. It was a way to experience the thrill of horror while still enjoying the festive atmosphere of Christmas. This blend of emotions made Christmas horror movies a popular choice for many during the holiday season. They used regular Christmas stuff in scary ways, which made them even creepier. Everyday holiday items like Christmas trees, decorations, and even Santa Claus were given a sinister twist, turning them into sources of fear and tension. This subversion of familiar holiday imagery added an extra layer of horror to these films, as it played on the audience's expectations and memories of Christmas. The juxtaposition of festive elements with terrifying scenarios created a sense of unease that was both thrilling and unsettling. This creative use of Christmas themes helped to establish the unique identity of the Christmas horror genre. It made people think about the not-so-perfect side of the holidays. These films often explored themes of family tension, loneliness, and the darker aspects of human nature that can come to the surface during the holiday season. By highlighting these issues, Christmas horror movies offered a different perspective on the holidays, one that was more reflective of the complexities and challenges that many people face. This deeper exploration of the holiday season resonated with audiences as it provided a more nuanced and realistic portrayal of Christmas. In the end, the rise of modern Christmas horror showed that there was room for a wide range of stories and emotions during the holiday season.